Hi there, Randi Green here, and welcome to another podcast. We are here on the High Awareness Lifestyle YouTube channel, and on this channel I am making podcasts and videos that are in alignment with the higher order psychic energetic processes and challenges that we have as people inside this reality program. My doors and windows are open because it's very warm in Denmark. We are writing September 8th and it's unnatural for the weather to be so hot. So I am very sorry about the background noise that comes from people around me that are living close to where I am, the wind. And I could, of course, go through a lot of editing, but just bear with me that this is in situ, in reality, inside the Truman Show. There are other people around me that are making noises, and by that, they will appear on this podcast. So with that said, what do I want to talk about today? And before I move on, I want to give you a little bit of a heads up because I'm going to do a whole session, a psychic energetic session, but not with a soul or holographic energetic structure and with consciousness potentials that are in organic vessel, but has lost the potentiality to be an organic vessel, and she is now stuck in a realm where she technically no longer belongs. How does that work? Well, let us put it this way that, she's restless. So I will do the explanations afterwards. So there'll be a little bit of copy paste here, but I'll just go straight into this session with her because she's very impatient. She needs to be released. She needs to move on. She has lost the ability to be in physical form. And why is that? Because she is other dimensional. She is right now positioned in what remains of the original fourth to fifth dimension of our reality field. The reality network is being activated for reasons and purposes due to changes in our core. And that pushes some of these restless souls to the surface. And I'll just call them restless souls first and foremost. I don't use the word soul, but it's just too long to say holographic energetic structure with consciousness potentials every time. I could say it's the higher order energetic structure of who and what we used to be in the solar system, but that's not accurate either because you come from the Pleiadian system. So we are here going so far back in history that her timeline no longer exists. It was collapsed and it ceased to exist during the Pleiadian Orion Wars. And her entry into my life came the other night where, and again, you can hear an ambulance in the background, where she came into my life showing me how she died. And let me put it this way, it was a very, 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 very unpleasant experience. It took me several hours to get out of the trauma of it. My body was in shock. The way she died was absolutely horrible. I will not describe that. Just rest assured that I almost cried just by talking about it because the way she entered into my field was completely overlay, and she stepped in on all levels of my being, including my physical level, from where I felt the pain she felt when she died. I felt how she died. I experienced how she died. And at the same time, I saw what she saw, and I felt the confusion when she died. I saw the surroundings where she were when she died. She was in what we call the Orion Mines, which is a very unpleasant place in the Orion system, where quite a lot of the Pleiadian warriors, the female warriors, as well as the male warriors of the Pleiadian system, were dragged due to their viability rate into the Orion system, where they underwent certain accumulative processes that foundationally changed their genetic structure. Now, there's nothing pleasant about what I am here to share with you, and a lot of my whole psychic energetic counseling sessions are especially when we dig deeper, we have different remnants of our own past history that might be similar to this, and this is why I choose to share this. Again, I am in communication telepathically, emotionally, mentally, meaning that she is currently occupying my 3 lower fields to allow me to see, feel, and understand how she felt. Did she think in that manner when she was in her own system? No, but she came here as part of our solar system with some of the early cargo freighters that were brought here as part of the colonization project, where some of the original Pleiadians, now with an altered configuration, were brought here, which then, due to their original configuration with the overlay added to it, were then inserted into this reality field from where the foundational gridwork of the nature, which was a Pleiadian project, were altered into being able to harbor some of these eighth dimensional, very third cycle technologically infused beings, and allowing them to come into our reality. These beings are still here, the Orion ones. They are typically within the Fly Kingdom. They are also within the Beetle Kingdom, and they are within every type of insect that is black, has a blue hue to it, and has some kind of exoskeleton shell around it. And has what we could say in all ways and forms when we look at it, whenever we encounter it, we don't feel particularly comfortable around them. We kind of sense there is this weird, odd, dark energy connected to them, at least those of us who are sensitive, not just because we have been taught that critter is dangerous, but literally because the energy it emits is unpleasant in contact with our energy system. And that's one of the traits of some of the Orion races of the eighth dimension that came here as part of the early colonization project. Why did they come in? Well, they came in to lower the energy fields so that the third cycle energies and the next wave that came after the first ones that lowered the energies were the Lunars. They came in and then they began their colonization. Why was that even possible? Because they had already been here due to the Atlantean projects, where they got granted a short period of time artificial networks and an artificial reality from where they could participate in the Atlantean projects. They had their own quote-unquote cities. But due to the way that they work with energy, they were not allowed to be completely connected to the entire reality field. And that, of course, already back then put in motion different types of malicious tendencies in the manner that they felt unfairly treated. This unfairness, of course, is one of the reasons why we are struggling with whatever remains of the fallen Atlantean timeline today. And I will claim there is no positive Atlantean timeline. There is the original one that was supposed to unfold, but that is so far from our current type of reality that to get to that level, we have to do a lot of clearing work. That's my claim. That could be false because, as you know, I release the lost souls or the restless souls. And by that, my configuration is, of course, oriented towards another level of reality. However, I will claim, since I have been looking into the different types of material over 20 years now, and when I began, there was a lot of the Atlantean project timelines that mimicked the positive version of it, but when it all came down to it, it appeared to be a kind of construction of the crystalline Syrian bees and what they wanted to achieve, ending up with giving sciences that were more in alignment with the Syrian bee system than actually our reality field. So they used whatever was left of the Atlantean timeline to progress their own genetic structure and then pulled it out, which led to the complete collapse of some of these quote-unquote positive Atlantean timelines. In my opinion, most of them are now under the hands of some of the groups that, in my optic and where I come from, is not the kind of neighbors I would like to have. However, we're not always in choice of what we want. So back to our good friend here, and what she needs from me is to, like everybody else that do whole sessions with me, is to tell her story. And because she is using my fields, it affects my heart field, it affects my solar plexus, it affects my personality structure that is tied to the solar plexus, it affects my heart field because that's how she can open up the timeline she's connected to. She needs me to feel sad because I can't open these timelines feeling happy, because she was not happy where she lost track of her ability to take on an organic vessel. So she shows me her story as visions in my head. And she takes me back to the Pleiadian system to begin with. And there I feel happiness, because there we can go up in energy in the 6th dimension. And she shows me the beauty of the Pleiadian system. And here I also feel sadness, because when she looks at that, again, using my emotional field, so she can access my chiasm, which is connected to my heart field, and from there vibrate the energy up to connect to the timeline that goes through our heart field. It doesn't go through the mind, it doesn't go through the body, it goes through our heart field. And the heart field is, by that understanding, a vibrational field that if we vibrate in a specific way, we activate specific light codes that change our configuration and allow us to connect with and recall past timelines, future timelines, or present timelines. So our heart field is where we can reconnect to the realities that we have been part of, vibrate the energy, get the configuration of our biofield to be in alignment with that, and from that create what we could say a field that allows our perception field of the brain to expand into that reality, and we can then perceive what is going on there. She's changing my code systems. I do have original Pleiadian genetics. I have also, for a period of time, worked with some of the lost crafts of the Orion Pleiadian wars that are stock, particularly here in Denmark. Some of the original Nordic gods are Pleiadians. So with that, it's Pleiadian country. And I have been working with some of the levels of our reality field in Denmark, under the soil of Denmark, to connect to some of these ancient crafts that have presented themselves changed from what we could call a craft figuration into a holographic energetic structure, and then downloaded itself into me. So I have been able to work with the Pleiadian timelines inside this reality field long before the current configuration we call planet Earth. So she shows me the Pleiadian system. And why is it beautiful? Is it beautiful because it holds plants and flowers and bugs and what have you? No, that's just part of the science labs. That's a that's a workstation configuration we have before the timeline event and after the timeline event. Plants are part of the after timeline event reconfiguration, engineered to transform and upgrade what we could say different forms of unfolded configurations that happen due to the timeline event back to the original high vibrational state of energy. So plants are technically a Pleiadian engineering and construction. What is beautiful about the Pleiadian system? First and foremost, it's not part of the Pleiades you see in the sky. These are all stars that are no longer there. They were put there, quote unquote, after the fall of the Pleiadian system. So the original Pleiadian system were not the 7 sisters in the sky. That's a false image, not the real deal. What we see in the sky are part of the construction. Beyond that, beyond the dome, if you like, we have the original worlds. And there we have a reality field that is not a position in the sky. That's not a local place in the universe. It's not something we can travel to via a craft. It is something we can enter into due to reconfiguration of our energy fields. So we don't need crafts to travel across dimensions. We can choose to do so. And the Pleiadians were very skillful travelers. They had these type of crafts, of which I remember having one as well, traveling into different systems where the craft itself and my holographic structure were interlinked, meaning that the craft became my vessel when I wished to travel. I literally became the craft. I could change form. I could become a craft if I chose to do so. That's not her memories, but since I have been in the Pleiadian system and I took some of my training there, I know this because I know how it works, because I've done it. So I understand what she's saying when we look into the Pleiadian system, and not as a locality, not as a planet, and not as something you would see in a science fiction movie. No, this is energy. This is a holographic energetic reality. Very dissimilar to ours because it's in the 6th dimension. In the 6th dimension, there are not physical features as we know of it. So what is she seeing? What do we perceive when we're there? Well, technically, first and foremost, when my brain looks at it, my brain eagerly transform it into something that's similar to this reality. That's unfortunately how the brain works. So I will sense in, and what I sense in, instead of seeing it with my inner sight as looking at reality there as I would look at reality in this life and in this reality, I sense in and I stop seeing with my eyes and I just begin to get the impressions from my perception field. And instead of getting it as visuals, I'm beginning to look at it as code systems. And that's where the beauty comes in. Because the beauty of the Pleiadian system and how the life forms that utilize these code systems could come into being via these code systems created worlds that were and are completely beyond our capacity of understanding of beauty. It is a feeling, it is a sensation, it is something that when I come in contact with it, I'm not looking at it, just sensing it, perceiving it with my awareness and my consciousness potentials. It repairs and heals my configuration. It heals my biofield, it heals my vibrational field, and it heals my perception field. So I feel how my radiation codes light up in kindness and in a caring way that is unknown inside this reality. And it makes my heart cry. Because when we have this beauty and when we have this present state of codes that are so magnificent that it repairs everything it comes in contact with, we are then within a vicinity of a very, very special type of configuration. Compared to the 8th dimension under the Orions that completely demolished their worlds and created contracted, restricted imprisonment systems where the enslavers would travel from system to system and conquer these beautiful worlds so they could get the code systems of these beautiful, magnificent worlds as an attempt to repair their own configuration, only to discover that whatever they laid their dark configuration hands on would turn into dust and cease to be beauty and just become empty space. So with that sensation of this is the Pleiadian system, I don't need to see and interpret it as physical beauty. It is holographic, energetic beauty. And with that understanding, I begin to see and feel what she was before she got dragged into the mines. She shows me the wars, she shows me the crafts, she shows me what happens, and my brain eagerly again transforms into some science fiction movie from where I begin to create weird crafts that are not in alignment with what she's actually showing me. So again, I move my centeredness around image and into the sensation of what is a galactic war in the 7th and 8th and 9th dimension. What does it mean that two species of two different dimensions clash together in what we would perceive to be a war? It's a war of energy. It can take physical form as we understand it. And physical form here means some sort of manifest type of craft as we see it in the sky. They can circle in and out of reality, first manifest, then de-manifest, with the blink of an eye. Easy peasy once you understand how configurations, code systems, timelines, and reality structures work. You don't need to have an organic vessel to manifest. But you can if you choose to do so. It serves its purpose. It depends on how you want to unfold the quote-unquote attack that you are doing. Now, let me put this very clearly so that you do not misunderstand it. The Pleiadians did not battle, they defended themselves. The invasion species was from the Orion system. They came in using what's called the toroidal technology, where you technically create magnetic fields that becomes like black holes, create a bleed through into the reality field of the Pleiadian system, and began to chew its way into the core facilities of the Pleiadian system. So the invasion tactics was not Star Wars shooting at each other. The invasion tactics was to change the reality configuration of the Pleiadian system so that the Orion insectoids could put their very sticky, flyy, Lord of the Fly, Beelzebub, winged dragon beings on the ground. We are here having this battle between two different sets of light codes. One is the light code in its original, compassionate, giving, magnificent, beautiful, healing, self-repairing form that leads to progression and continued existence within different realms with the sole purpose of creating harmony and beauty. And then we had the other one that had its sole purpose to create chaos, devastation, destruction, and everything that could come in its path would be chewed up, transformed into dark light codes, and cease to exist entirely as what we could call a progressive being, but turning into something else by the use of technology. She looks at this and she becomes sad. Not sad as in crying because of loss, not sad because that she feels that she has lost her life, because for a Pleiadian warrior as well as I recall being there again as a female, because the Pleiadian system is what we will call a feminine system. Males are there, but we don't talk gender. They did not have genitals that we have. They did not have bodies as we have. And no, they were not light beings. They just had a completely different configuration. If you don't eat, you don't need intestines. If you don't reproduce via sexual activity, you don't need sexual organs. So configuration, body is completely different. But there are legs and arms, torso, head, and there are different features that we would compare if a Pleiadian came into our system of the original configuration, chose to downsize her configuration into this reality. She would look quite human, except from the radiation that she would have and the vibration that for most would feel like being in the presence of an angel. So she's sad and she's looking, and what she is feeling, as I have felt as well when we had the encounter, and it gives me the feel that we were close when we were there when the Orions came. And I remember when the Orions came because I was there. And I remember the dark cloud that came in. It was not a cloud as in thunder clouds on the sky. It was like electric clouds that were chewing holes, demolishing, having this omen of pure evil. The energy itself felt hurtful. It felt like, as I had when I recalled, or she recalled in me, how she felt when she was in the mines, and one of these Orion beings came in from the left and looked at her and came very close. The best image I can give is Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, where we have some of a similar kind of appearance, where one of them sticks its head very close to her and she's just sitting very, very still. However, these beings do not drill. They do not have saliva coming out of their mouth, because that is a feature of eating. But their energy feels like poison. It feels like disconfiguration. It feels like black hole, complete destruction, cold space, and pain and agony and everything that we do not perceive as something we want to be in contact with. And that is a configuration that is utterly and completely painful. I look at her and she looks at me, and we are looking at each other, remembering that moment in time. And it affects me and it affects her. So why are we sad? Why do we feel this sadness? Is it the loss of our own life? No, we're warriors. But it's the loss of beauty, it's the loss of harmony, it's the lost worlds of what was there that no longer is there, that were taken away. And you see, one of the things that are difficult about the Pleiadian Orion Wars is that it was due to treason. Because technically it wouldn't be able for them, these beings wouldn't be able to enter into the Pleiadian system. But there were some youngsters that were foolish enough to travel to the Orion system. We also had diplomats that were foolish enough to travel to the Orion system, thinking that if they showed goodwill, if they showed the right way to do things, then the Orions might change their minds. With that, we gave them the key to the Pleiadian system. Again, given and granted by the councils. Now, it's not up to us when we are in these worlds to position or to point out or create blame. We don't do blame, but we do rest upon choices. And with my human emotional field, I do and feel allowed to feel that there is regret that we did, that choice was made. There is this foundational feeling of why, and that was immensely stupid. The idea was good in theory, in practice, if the Pleiadians had known and perhaps had been a little bit more in the understanding what was actually coming and what had brewed after the timeline event in some of these very, very inverted systems, we might have chosen differently. And that is, for me, the largest regret. The unacknowledgement of what was coming and thinking that we knew how to deal with it. We trained for these quote-unquote holographic energetic wars, as we would call it. I would call it energetic battles between different forms of configurations, going in and out of manifestation, using technology versus consciousness. That's not really a war, is it? The matter of the fact is that we lost that war. And she was taken. I was pushed into the abyss of different reasons. And I resided there for quite some time. But I remember when I came out, it was like all of the holographic energy systems had been sucked out of the system itself, of the reality field itself. And it was collapsing, turning into dust, turning into space dust, ceasing to exist altogether as a coherent reality field. The black hole technology had sucked everything dry, leaving behind what could go into evaporation. And that set me onto my journey to travel around. She was brought to the mines in the Orion system. And I call it the mines because they are like black, dark caves where whatever had light would be turned into darkness. And I don't need to tell you how that was done. You can connect the dots yourself. Many of you have watched enough movies of what happens when evil takes over. Then she was brought here, and the first form that she got here was in a little insectoid form where she didn't belong. And because of her gene code being so dissimilar to the insectoid that she had been put into, that form quickly disintegrated, and she only had a lifespan here as what we would equate with 5 years. But that was enough for other life forms to come in and then begin to build on the configuration, the reconfiguration that these altered life forms had brought to our system. Now, why does she come to me and show me that? Is that because she's evil? Well, I would say that the experience I had when she was in my field, when she manifested herself in my field and began to give me this information, is not something I would wish to experience ever again. And it did traumatize me for a couple of days. And it's been a difficult journey for me to get my configuration back up and running. But now it is, and now she can release the polarity of it. And from that, hopefully, some knowledge that will repair some of my configurations that were lost or was not completed in my training in the Pleiadian system. What would be the purpose of that? Future will tell. But what needs to be done now is her release, because she has stuck around waiting for someone that was similar enough so that she could hand over her, whatever was left of her original Pleiadian configuration. Semi-eternal beings cannot just evaporate everything they are. whatever they are that are tied to the reality field configuration must be handed over either into the library of which I have access, or into another similar being that can then carry the light codes with her or him outside this reality field. What she's giving to me is for the library, so it's not mine to keep. It will stick in my field for a couple of days, then it will be transformed, reconfigured, and then be connected to the original holographic energetic teaching system of this reality field. It will be securely reconnected to the original Pillar Project joint fields of educational systems and history lessons for those of us who are doing our progression journey here. So I'm just collecting that information for her and derouting it where it needs to go, and that will happen automatically because my system works that way. The last piece that is there is for her to leave. And as always, when I release what has been stuck here, there is joy, there is sadness. What we understand as a death process, going to another reality, is not always easy. It's not a joyous event. It's a bittersweet event. And the longing for me, as in I wish that the world was what it was once and what it is no longer, is the bittersweet for me, because as I let her go, I let that beauty, magnificent, healing, original capacities of what we once were cross over into where she can continue her existence. And at the same time, I feel her gratitude for being able to get closure, to get to the point where she can complete her cycles, where she can let go of all the horror and everything that she has been through, because she has deposited it in me, for me to transform, because I can. Do I choose this? Not at all. But it happens, and it has happened. And all I can do now is to feel her gratefulness and her wholeness and let her go to where she belongs. And as she leaves the gate system, I can ask, am I envy of her departure? Am I envy that she finally can go home? Not to the Pleiadian system, because that's not there anymore, but back to the core domains, where she will be recalibrated and then move into a system that is similar and matching her level of viability rate. She will continue her journey as she was and what she can become, and she can begin all over in another parallel system of the progressive worlds. Do I envy her ability? Do I envy that she can go there now? Parts of me do, and other levels of me know it's not time yet. The inner clock has not struck that level. And I rest assured in my energy system and who and what I am, unless, of course, all of the dark configurations get their grip on me, and instead of me transferring myself out as a light orb to the worlds where I came from, and I'll be dragged into the worlds that belongs to the inverted civilizations, of course, then whatever I am will turn into utter darkness. But that will also be what we call an alignment, because if they manage to do that, whatever's left of viability will be pulled into the abyss and cease to exist. There are laws regarding these pull-ins. There are laws regarding what can be and cannot be done to the original consciousness potentials of this system. And yes, we all used to be part of the original lineages. And the timeline event changed that, created polarity, created negative, positive opposition, struggling with each other through crisis. It created chaos, destruction, deception, delusion, depression, everything that is unwholesome and is connected to processes and energy configuration that take, devour, and turn things into something that they truly should not be. It no longer is progression, it turns into the complete opposite. And with that little story, I think it is time here to say, what can you use this story for as in part of your reconfiguration work? There are sciences behind everything, and I know many of you have probably been overwhelmed by emotional content to begin with. Process this, see where it resonates, what it stirs up in you. And then at some point when you're ready, listen to the sciences. Because when we are in contact with the past lives and who we have been and what originally were, it is not as much the sadness and the mourning and the losses. It's the sciences behind everything there is. When we remember and recall past timelines, it is to clean up what's stuck there so it can be released. But it's also to bring with us what is to be brought further into the next level of whatever we are to become. And this rests upon sciences. This rests upon the knowledge of how reality works. It's not an emotional feature. It is not a journey of emotionality. It is a journey through emotionality to get to the understanding of how the heart field and the chiasm works. It is a journey through the constructions of mind into getting in contact with the reality configuration from where we can stop projecting our current state of mind and illusions and ideas of what reality is onto the true worlds as they truly are, and learn to see everything as codes. Is this the movie The Matrix? No, not at all. These codes, they have viability in them that are connected to consciousness potentials, that are connected to progression dynamics. It is not something that is looked upon. It is not something that is deduced or led into understanding by putting them into equations. It is not done by technology. It is done by expansion, progression, order, harmony, beauty, developmental processes, and healing, wholeness. And here we have a child outside giving another angle of reality. We are in the end cycles. And what does the end cycle mean? It means that everything that needs to be cleaned must be cleaned. What must be let go of must be let go of. And the last thing I will give you here is, what does that mean? Imagine that you live in one country and you've got a job in another country. And you leave your current country and you know you will never come back. So you arrange yourself in ways, preparing for the journey, for the transition into a new country, the new job, the new circumstances, the new level of reality that you are to participate in. You throw out stuff, you keep things that you find important, and you store them or you bring them with you, all depending on whether or not you know you will come back. If you have a feeling you'll come back, you'll put it in storage. But if you know, this is it, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back, then you are making special arrangements, you are saying your goodbyes, you're getting ready. You're bringing your affairs in order because you know you're now embarking on a journey from where you will not return. That is what the end cycles are about. This is where whatever is there will leave the system if we no longer have the energetic and genetic affinity with it. And that's part of the reconfiguration work that we are to do, those of us who choose to leave the system. Is this then a romanticized emotional journey of returning home because this is so difficult here? Not for me. There is no home. There is just another level of consciousness, another level of reality, another level of transformational processes. It is ongoing. There never really is a home. Home is where we are, as it so cleverly have been said. Do I then feel at home here? No, because I am in my processes, arranging myself so I become dissimilar to this system, So that means I am in processes that no longer aligns me with the current world as it is. But I'm still aligned with the past timelines. And as long as I am that, and as I, in my processes, get access to these different timelines, whatever is there will be amplified and brought to life. And since they can't leave via the gates, they will leave via me, and then it's up to me to transform what they are. Again, do I choose this? No. But imagine that you are in the city or wherever you are, and you are there, and suddenly another person is there. And it's all up to you. How do you address this person? You can ignore the person, but if someone really wants to get in contact with you, no matter whatever you do, they will. Especially when we talk about world of energies that are under laws of rules of engagement, principles, and energetic and genetic affinity. You see some of the dynamics in this life under Principle 4. What you send out will be mirrored back to you. It will be reflected to you so you can complete your end cycles. And many of the whoever and whatever I meet were either part of the Pillar Project, and I came in contact with them, and by that bear an energetic imprint of them from back then. Due to the timeline event, quite a lot of what we had together got stuck in pockets of reality that now releases its content as part of the completion cycle. Some of this is very unpleasant, and all depending on how far you got in the Pillar Project, what type of program you were under when you were here as part of the restoration cycles after the timeline event, or what position you were in when the colonizers came, or wherever you were. We have segmented portions of ourselves stuck here and there. And that is being released due to the collapse of whatever was of the old world order technology. And that means that whatever comes our way, we either have met before, or we have energetic and genetic affinity with it, or it's part of some of our processes to be cleaned out. Some of it is put our way because those of us who activate and have a viability rate that goes into the sixth dimension, we imprint. Others do not have that ability, and that makes their work a bit easier. Either way, whatever comes our way is something that we should have a high level of discernment on what to do in our work to, again, recall who and what we are and learn how to work correctly with energy and consciousness as part of the progressive worlds and what we began in this system as an effect of the timeline event. We're here to transform energy. We are here to either transform it to its higher potentiality or transmute it so it ceases to exist and are being drawn into the abyss. We are to decide what we will take with us as we do the transition. And we are to choose whether or not we will come back. And if we are, we put things in storage so we have a connection point from where we can re-enter when we choose to leave this organic form. If we choose to leave altogether, we clean up everything and close down all unfinished business. Disconnect energetically from wherever we are in this life. These are some of the choices that we are to do as well. And we have always done these choices when it was time to complete within a cycle or complete within a reality field. It is sad to leave what we are used to or accustomed to. And sometimes we like to stick and stay where we are because at least we know what's there and we don't know the unknown. We don't know the unknown until we are facing it and confronting it. And then whatever is unknown will become known. And that's part of the journey too. This is Randi Green, and thank you for listening, and take care.